The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, has resolved to take decisive action against the soaring cost of medication in Nigeria, particularly life-saving drugs for hypertension and diabetes. Representing the FCCPC Vice Chairman, Boladele Adeyinka, highlighted the outcry from consumers struggling to afford these essential medicines. Empowered by its 2018 Act, the Commission is conducting an inquiry into the market inconsistencies driving up prices. With varying drug costs across different markets, the FCCPC, alongside key stakeholders including the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, H-Medics, federal and state health ministries, and the National Health Insurance Authority, is working to assess the factors affecting accessibility and affordability. Joining us in the studio is public health consultant Tui Mebawadu. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you join us.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, from your perspective, if we really or truly do not know why there are soaring prices for medication in the country as we speak, because in 2004 we had a huge number of pharmaceuticals leave the country, and then a lot of persons at that time were raising concerns that this would have its implication, especially on accessibility and affordability. But here we are asking this question again, what the issue really is.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.
If you enter a healthcare system, there are three areas we must be concerned with. First is the competency of the health workers or the doctors. Yeah. Secondly is the quality of laboratory diagnosis. And then the third thing is the quality of drugs that has been served or dispensed at that level. And now, when we're talking about quality of drugs, we know that cost affects quality of drug. And of course, brand affects qualities of drug. In all these situations, you see that there are consumers. If you are related to doctors, we now call them clients. We don't call them patients. Yeah. If you are doing laboratory tests, you are still, there's a consumer. And even with drugs, a bigger consumer. So now, a drug is seen as an essential component and should be declared as a fundamental human right. Access to medication, don't let me use the word drug, medication. Access to medication is seen as a fundamental human right, and of course, which must be looked into. And when you look at the drug production, there's a difference between efficacy and effectiveness. Efficacy has to do with that can this drug or medication do what
address
we
the
say
issues
it can do. If you can do it, when you take it to the field, that you have to deal with the effectiveness, because if the price is so much, people will not buy it. You won't be able to cure the disease. Now, if the distribution channel is so erratic and it allows a lot of faking, you will not still see, or even the storage, you will not see the effectiveness. So we can see a medication that is very efficacious, but not effective. So now, it boils down to the fact that WHO said that by this year, every country will have a minimum of 80% availability and accessibility to essential drugs. But if you look at Nigeria, where are we now? We're just barely 40% by the last study that we did. And even at that 40%, we see that the essential drugs, like you mentioned, we have 50 to 800% increase in basic drugs like anti-malaria, diabetic drug, hypertension drug, and antibiotics. 50 to 800% increase in the cost. Now, the question is this: how do you now deal with those kind of things? And then there's a study by the World Medicine Situation Report that shows that Nigeria, compared to about 7 other countries in Africa, we're having 5 times the cost of medication in public setting.
Why?
So now, what is the greatest input into this? Unfortunately, apart from the general inflation, okay, and the component of forex into it, government tariff is there. Secondly, if you have to dispense drug or sell drug, you have to sell actually where? In its locations. And then input of rent, input of transportation, input of storage, input of distribution into this drug makes the price go up. But the worst aspect of it is that even at that, there's so much arbitrariness. Control is lax. If you look at those agencies having to control price for us, the control is lax. Even on a single street like this, you one product having different prices depending on the whims and caprices.
So that's what we believe. Sorry to butt in. That's what we believe that the FCCPC is coming in. For instance, they clarify that they do not have the mandate to regulate prices, but focuses on curbing exploitative practices. So if they do not have this power to regulate prices, then how effective will their influence be in terms of mitigating, or let's say bringing down the price of drugs at the end of the day?
To what end is the inquiry?
Exactly.
I choose to not to really discuss whether they can do it or not do it. But I, first of all, will commend them for raising the discussion, for bringing attention to such an important issue.
Now, everybody knows it. The fact that they're bringing it,
yeah, they're bringing it.
Change
so at the level, it does. Because now they're bringing some stakeholders together.
Right.
So they're saying that addition of community pharmacy come. Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria come. Other people, please come, let us discuss what we can do about it. The major challenge, because I was listening to that article by BBC on that Indian guy that was producing tafranol all over Africa. The guy said, I know it is bad, but it is business. Now, commercialization, of a lot of this product is costing here. Medicine should not just be about business. There are human components to it. But when it falls in the hand of people that are looking at it as business only, then we see all these sort of prices. When the medication is scarce, they increase the price, and there's nobody to challenge or regulate them. Because in reality, if a child is having an acute asthmatic attack and you need those inhaler to really calm it down, you won't be able to start fighting about the cost. You have to say, okay, where can I get it? And you've got it to the first place, you're not getting it. Second place, you're not getting it. Then, now, apart from that, the key ingredients in manufacturing medications are actually active pharmaceutical ingredients. We do not produce active pharmaceutical ingredients. So in reality, we have to import all those things, And then, of course, I entered one of the big supermarkets yesterday. They shut down. I was shocked because they are coping with power issue. I opened my mouth. Wow, it's tough to do business in Nigeria. So in reality, if Federal Competitive and Consumer Protection Council or whatever needs to do something, they should just go beyond noise making. They have to engage the NAFDAC. I
thought you approved or applauded them for having this conversation because you now said noise making.
No, yeah, it's okay. Noise, you have to make noise. Noise making, not negative in a way.
Okay,
that
clarity is important.
Yeah, in the sense that you're saying everybody, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, you're not doing enough. Community Pharmaceutical Society in Nigeria, you're not doing enough. NAFDAC is doing its own best. Of course, look at the kind of Herculean task before the NAFDAC, before they can run after fake drug, run after fake food, and then come and see.
But because of our time, you perhaps put forward what you think could be the solution to addressing this matter, because you have highlighted critical issues. You've talked about taxation, you've talked about forex, you've talked about the fact that the environment is not conducive for businesses like pharmaceuticals to thrive. So perhaps what would you suggest government should do at this point?
In an economy that is similar to us, what I've seen is that essentially there's maximum retail price, MRP, label on products. Okay, now we have to actually figure that out, especially on the essential product. Then the essential drug list, we have to actually tweak it, to make sure that hypertension drugs, diabetic drugs, and malaria and basic antibiotics are really readily available, having an MRP on them. Okay, what has happened is that when the company produces the drug, they just leave it for those down retailers. The supply chain at that end has to be controlled. That's not just about the quality of the drug, it's about the cost of the drug. Because if the drug is so expensive, people will use it erratically and will have a lot of failure. We won't have effectiveness. So now, if you look at these agencies from NAFDAC to FCCPC, you will not see medical doctors with them. I mean, it's curious that such an agency like NAFDAC is mainly populated by pharmacists and some other things. You will not see a medical doctor. The FCCPC should actually have a health desk, health personnel that can help them say, oh, this thing is going out of place, and be active in survey. I know that they have a portal for reporting some of these drugs, that are too expensive to be fake. We have to really raise that bar in terms of reporting and letting people understand that even if you buy a drug at this price, you can complain.
That's right.
Because on a single street, the same medication, different prices, by the same manufacturer. You now ask the question, what has happened between this place and this place?
That's right.
And you see the shop just across there. Wow. So I think we need to actually seriously look at that end place, the final of the supply chain of medications in Nigeria.
Anyway, the FCCPC granted a 1-month moratorium for businesses to, adjust their practices before enforcement begins. So I'm thinking, how do you think this time frame is enough, or could it probably lead to unintended consequences of them maybe stockpiling or artificial scarcity?
FCCPC should actually look at what is practicable. 1 month to do what? Do they have the requisite staff? Do they have the requisite knowledge to enforce what they want to enforce? We keep talking, keep educating people. Let people understand that these are things that we can all do together. But by the time they look at the challenges in that supply chain, they will marvel. Okay? Because I've seen companies.
So you're saying that they should not give them 1 month? They should equip themselves first.
Yes. First of all, you have to equip yourself. Secondly, you have to deepen the conversation. You have to really understand the dynamics. Why is it that even in a public institution, the only probably exception is that when the medications are coming from the NGOs, the price tends to be more moderate, stable. Yeah. But when it's coming from, even in public setting, government public setting, we see the price going up. So if you're going to talk about consumer, it's not just about medication, laboratory, because recently, I had a very silly experience, in a laboratory, in a very top laboratory, writing reports that's actually very, very false. Okay? So consumers, we should be able to create that avenue for consumers of health, because when you're talking about health, we are talking about employer of health workers, you are talking about the health workers, you are talking about consumers of health workers. So they are given the short end of the stick in this transaction. When the employers are fighting the employees, the consumers are left in the cold. So in reality, what we should do is to really create that platform where consumer interaction, sharing of information and messages, whether on the portal of FCCPC or the portal of NAFDAC or the portal of any agency that so decide to do that. Because if people do not have access to quality drug, of course we are just 40% now by the last World Medicine Situation report. We're just 40%. And the WHO says by this year you should do 80% of essential drug. So it's a double whammy. Non-availability of those drugs, expensive drug, faking of the drugs.
And do you think, we've seen what NAFDAC is doing, do you think that the gaps that have been created as a result of all that you have mentioned is what those who are manufacturing fake drugs are taking advantage of?
Most of those fake drugs are actually imported and smuggled into the country. Now, if you sit down and look at the pharmaceutical manufacturing, a bit more thorough, except you are doing illegal manufacturing at a corner. Because there are very strict standard. If I see a drug made in Nigeria, I will easily buy it. With a known stamp of a company that I know. Okay. I will easily prefer it than made in India, made in China.
We still have many companies.
Because you see, the monitoring process is very thorough. I mean, it's very thorough. I agree that the regulatory agencies like NAFDAC, they're overwhelmed, they're understaffed, you know, they're not having requisite equipment and all those things. But the process is thorough. Just attempt to want to register a product with NAFDAC, then you understand what I'm talking about. You know, the SON, I don't understand, but I keep wondering how SON, people are escaping the thoroughness of SON to bring in substandard bulb, substandard everything, you know, even charging, you know.
Phone chargers.
Yes, phone chargers, yes.
Unfortunately, our time is up, but we must thank you to Ime Bawadu, public health consultant, for your time on the program. So much has been said in such a short time. Thank you.
My pleasure every time.
Right.